Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Helen Hillix, intuitive counselor, from my heart to yours. And this is take two because I realized that I had recorded the entire episode without turning on my microphone. So I had a beautiful visual, but no microphone. So here we go again, guys. And I'm going to talk about a really important topic today, which is when to stay and when to leave, a 10-step guide to deciding. And isn't that one of the most difficult things in life, is to decide when to stay and when to leave? And although I'm going to be talking mostly about marriage and relationships today, it also can apply to, you can use these same steps to apply to a job or a city that you want to leave or whatever. So even though it's going to be focused primarily on romantic relationships, it could also be about a friendship or family relationships, any kind of relationships. So here we go. The first step is notice that something is amiss. Now you may say, duh, of course I notice something is amiss, but you would be amazed at the number of people who do not notice that something is amiss because they don't want to. They are surprised when somebody says, I want to break up with you. And they say, I thought everything was fine. But it's like the other person is saying, are you kidding me? How could you possibly think everything was fine? But they do think everything is fine because they're not paying attention to what is really going on in the relationship. They're not noticing that something is amiss. And of course, if you guys would get really good at number one, you would hardly ever need to go very far down these 10 steps, because you would notice something is amiss and you would resolve it right away. You would resolve it right away. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients come in and at the very end of, this one couple, for instance, had been miserable for 12 years before they came to me. Now, to their credit, they had gone to a few other counselors and had not gotten the results they wanted. And that's a good point that I want to emphasize. If you go to a counselor and you're not getting what you need or you want, you don't feel a real affinity with that person, get rid of them. Go to somebody else. It's like any other kind of service. You need to feel that this is the right person for you to work with. So you have a choice. So anyway, the first step is notice that something is amiss. Again, if your wife or husband is not having sex with you for a year or 2 years or 3 years, you might start thinking something is amiss here. And, I'm being silly, but it's like, notice it sooner than that. If you have have generally been having sex 3 times a week and all of a sudden you don't have it for months, it's like you get to notice that and bring that up. If your husband is generally cheerful or your wife is generally loving and they shift, you get to notice that. If you just feel like something is off in your relationship, notice it and do something about it. But for the purposes of this podcast is really when to stay and when to leave. You obviously are way farther along in this process than that. So things have gotten significantly more painful than just one incidence of something painful happening. So pay attention, guys. Don't put your head in the sand. Notice that something is not right and have the courage to talk about it. Even if it makes a big fight or it causes temporarily even more of a separation, it's just noticing something is amiss and talking about it can significantly shift things in a relationship. You can say that you're not happy and the other person says they're not happy either. And, you may say, I don't really even want to work on it. Do you? And then they say, no, I really don't either. And you amicably separate. Then you don't have to do the rest of these steps. But if it's not that simple, if you say something is amiss and they say, I'm not happy either, what can we do about it? Because I don't want to divorce we've got 3 kids and we own a home and we run a business together, and I still love you. Something is terribly wrong, but I still love you. I want to see anyway if we can do something about this. Or It may not even be that clear. You may not even know if you want to do something about it. But the first step is noticing that something's amiss. And then the second step, guys, is to set your intention to do whatever it takes to get clear. And like I was saying, if you already know you want to try, then go ahead and try. Get some support and try. And if you already know you don't want to try, then go ahead and separate. But this 10-step process is for those people who aren't sure yet which one they want to do. So the only intention that you can really set solidly is to get clear. And that clarity is what you need in order to make the decision, right? And it will take time. Don't think that unless this is a 1-month relationship, don't think it's going to take a week to decide. You get to give yourself months of time to really get clear and evaluate this whole situation. So set your intention to get clear and really be firm about the fact that you're going to do whatever it takes to get that clarity, because this kind of decision is really, really important and you don't want to make it lightly. The third step is to connect to yourself and the universe. And this step is in every one of the tools that I offer my clients, is to connect to yourself and the universe and do it every day. Meditate, journal, pray, whatever is your particular spiritual or philosophical perspective about life. Take time to be mindful and to really nurture that relationship with the universe every single day so that it helps you stay neutral and calm down. We are in such a hurry in our society to, make decisions, make it happen, do it now. And I want to encourage you to calm down. And, I know that I have had a tendency sometimes, rather than feel the pain of the limbo, I've wanted to just end it, to get rid of that pain. And, one of the things that has helped me tremendously is this spiritual idea that if I'm meant to be with this person, then I don't care how much turmoil we go through, we are going to end up together. And if we are not meant to be together, I don't care how hard we hold on, it's not going to work out. And I have never felt that more clearly than I do with my husband of 12 years. We met late in life. We had lots of set in our ways beliefs, and we have been separated for an entire year once. And I thought for sure that was the end of that. And I was happy about it at the time. But as I watched him grow and change, and I grew and changed, it's like the universe brought us back together. And it was amazing to me that the universe did that, because it certainly wasn't my intention or his at the time. So it confirmed that to me, that if we're meant to be together, even if you do separate, if you change and grow, you will end up back together if you're meant to be. So that can help you relax during this process if you can embrace that idea. And the next step is get sober, or stay sober if you already are. Now, people say, what does that have to do with it? I only drink a glass of wine every night, or I only smoke a little bit of weed, or, I only, eat whatever CBD products. I'm not an addict, and I'm not saying you're an addict, but I'm just saying that making a decision like this, a life decision like this, especially if you are in it many years, and even not many years, let's say 2 years you're in it, and you maybe own a house together, or you have a baby together, or you don't. You want to be clear-headed about this decision. And the only way to really be clear-headed about this decision is to eliminate the consequences or the side effects of those substances. I'm not saying forever. I'm just saying while you make this choice, the very best way to do it is to get sober. And I have recommended that to many, many clients of mine. And you know what? The interesting thing is, some of them have said, just the getting sober really helped change their relationship, because you'd be surprised at how many of the irritating things that happen or the fights that happen when you're drinking. And again, you may not think of yourselves as alcoholic, but when you stop and think about it, it's like, oh yeah, we do tend to, have a lot more fights when we're drinking. So get sober and stay sober until you make this choice. And step number 5 is get clear. To get clear about what are the real issues, at least what you think are the real issues. And this step is really about trying to take out the drama, the emotional drama of the situation. And don't base your decision on, man, he makes me so angry, and oh, she's such a bitch, and all of that kind of angry emotion and melodrama that tends to happen when we're not happy in a relationship. Try and integrate your rational mind as well as your emotions. Now, there's nothing wrong with your emotions. They are a signal that something isn't right, and I want to honor those. But sometimes we let our emotions run away with us, and that is not helpful. So if we integrate our mind and our mental process, our rational minds into the process, it will benefit us tremendously in staying neutral and non-reactive while we're going through this process. And do like you would in buying a car or buying a house or taking a job. Make a pro and a con list. And, that may be so illuminating to you. You may have good sex is on the pro list, and you may have 30 things on the con list. And no matter how hard you try, you can't think of another pro except for that. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize it was that extreme. Or you might, on the opposite side, have 30 things on the pro list and only 1 or 2 things on the con list. And you think, wow, I didn't realize that those particular things bothered me so much. And I didn't realize also how insignificant they are to all the pros on the list. So it's really important for you to bring in your mental process and your rational mind in this. And to evaluate also what kind of person you tend to be in such situations. And I know that I do both of these things, or have done in the past. And one of them is, are you the kind of person that tends to stay too long because you're afraid that you can't pay the bills by yourself, or you're afraid you'll never find love again, or you're afraid your parents will judge you for getting divorced after only a year, or whatever it is, you're afraid of something, of being alone by just in itself, you're afraid of being alone. Are you that kind of person? And so you tend to hold on too long? Or are you the kind of person that tends to say, oh, this is boring. This takes too much work. I cannot tell you how many people I have worked with and personal situations that I've been in where the person says, this is just too hard. Love shouldn't be hard. It should be easy. If you're a good match and you're soulmates and blah, 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 it should just flow. And it's like, gag me. That is not reality, guys. It is not reality. Love is hard work. Anything worthwhile, I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times, anything worthwhile is hard work. And it doesn't always have to be hard work. You can set up your career to have it be a lot less work. And you can also get to a place in your marriage where you have developed these wonderful communication skills and intimacy where it's not so much work. But for most of us, for much of the time, love is work. It requires us to notice things. It requires us to put energy into it. So, the other way you can be is that I don't want to put any energy into it. I want it to be easy. I want everything to be easy, and I can't stand any discomfort, and I want to end this pain. I want out. And like I said, I've done both things. This is too painful. I want out. Just get rid of him. And, I think this happens a lot. I think, stereotypically the woman is the one that holds on and is afraid she can't make the living. And the man is the one that's bored and, doesn't want the discomfort and the hard work because he already works hard to make a living for the family. But it's in this modern world, that's all turned upside down. And sometimes, it's like I was the primary breadwinner. I didn't need him out, so it can be all these crazy, confusing situations. And these are part of the patterns that we get clear about, guys, so that we know whether we're that kind of person that tends to, cut bait and run, or whether we're the kind of person that clings on to situations that are clearly not workable. So this is important for you to see what you're doing in this situation. Are you doing a little bit of both? Or are you really not doing either one of those, and you're the kind of person that takes the slow and steady course and wants to make sure they're doing the right thing? That would be great. That's not been my tendency, but all more power to you. So the sixth step is to get support. And why do we need to get support? Because, you know, your mother or your sister or your best friend or, you know, your coworker or whatever, generally speaking, they know just about as much as you know about life and relationships. And that's probably not a tremendous amount. If it's your family, they tend to side with you and say that the guy is, you know, a jerk. And, you know, if it's their family, they tend to say, you know, just stay with him. You know, he's a really great guy, or whatever the situation is. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with talking to people and trying to get support, but I'll tell you what, my experience has been that the more personal people that you talk to, the worse it is, because it tends to escalate one side or the other. And then if you do decide to stay together, they've had their heads completely filled with all this negative information about that other person. And it makes it really hard for them to like them. So this is a really important piece of insight here, is don't talk a lot to your family and friends about what's going on, because they don't know any more than you do. Get the help of a professional person, whoever that is. I don't care. And make sure it's a good match. Make sure it's a good match for you. If you go to someone and you don't feel that connection and relaxation and safety, go to somebody else. That's really important. But get support. I know that for myself and my husband, that there have been times when we thought for sure we knew. And I'm a professional therapist, and he was a school counselor in his career. And it's like both of us have a lot of insight, but we have thought for sure we knew what was going on at times. And we get into a counseling session with our mentor, and she says, no, that's not it. It's this. And of course, then after we talked about it and we could see that that was true, it was something else completely. So this is incredibly important, because, you know, you can think it's a sexual issue, or you can think it's money, or you can think it's step parenting, or, you know, these particular issues. And I'm not discounting those as possible issues that need to be resolved, but the core of it may be something you never thought about. That, for instance, your dad was very critical, and you have a feeling deep in your heart that your dad is judging your husband as not successful enough, not smart enough, not hardworking enough. And you pick up on that, and you think he isn't either, when it really doesn't matter to you at all. You know he loves you, and he's dedicated to you, and he has your back. And that's the most important thing. So get support, guys, so that you don't go off on some tangent and make an incredibly important decision without getting the wisdom of somebody that knows a lot more than you do about the situation. And then there's number 7, which is perhaps my favorite one of all the steps, and it is accept pain. I want to say it again, accept pain, and realize that whichever way you choose to go, there's going to be pain. You know, people want to end things sometimes just to relieve the pain. I have. And I know that I'm not the only one. You know, I've seen it many times in clients, again, that they just want to end the suffering that they're experiencing. And I just this morning or yesterday, I was working with a young woman whose husband is addicted in several ways, and she loves him dearly, and she's sick to death of it. And it's like she had to face the reality that if she gives him up, she's going to be so sad and heartbroken about losing him and the possibility that things could get better. And if she stays with him, she's going to have the heartbreak and pain of the possibility that even if he gets sober and abstinent, that he's going to relapse at some point. But it's like, you know what, guys, either way you go, there's going to be pain. There isn't an easy way out of it. Now, sometimes there is something that is a lot more clear and makes it, that you really don't love the person anymore. You just don't love them. And no matter how much counseling you get with a really good counselor, you realize more and more and more that you don't love each other. Well, that's okay. Then you just move on to the pain of how do you dissemble your household and all of the things, and do the best you can to try to be friends. But either way you go, there's going to be some kind of pain. Sometimes it's less painful to go one way than the other, but there will always be some kind of pain. And if you have, which we all do, guys, let me tell you, we all have issues. It's easy sometimes to point to the other guy, and sometimes the other guy's problems are so egregious that, there's no doubt about it. It's like they are being a butthead, and, they're cheating on you, and they're a sex addict, and, whatever it is, or she is cheating on him, and, she's an alcoholic and doesn't want to get sober, or she's, mentally ill and doesn't want to accept the fact that she's mentally ill and desperately needs psychiatric help. Sometimes that's the case. And they may be the ones to leave. They may be the ones to think, oh, you're just an idiot, and I'm going to be a lot happier with somebody else. But you know what? They're not going to be happier with somebody else, because they're still going to have those same problems. And even if yours are not the problems that look the worst, whatever your problems are, being critical, being withholding, being vindictive, whatever your problems are, they're going to show up in your next relationship too. So this is, again, part of that acknowledgement that accept the reality that there's pain. And if you accept that there's reality, that there's pain in staying and there's pain in leaving, then it often helps you relax into the process of taking your time in this situation to make sure that you are really dealing with your own issues and your own painful patterns, so that if you decide to leave in the end, you feel confident that you have changed and grown and are not going to bring the same problems into the next relationship. But if you don't accept that things are inevitably painful, life is painful, it's inevitable. If you don't accept that, then you're going to be looking for the quickest way to escape the pain, having an affair, getting drunk, running away, from the relationship, and just trying to put it behind you. None of those things is going to work. Whatever you're bringing with you is going to stay with you until you heal it. Now, another thing to keep in mind about that pain is inevitable is sometimes your partner does not want to go to counseling, and you do. And sometimes it's the man that wants to go, and sometimes it's the woman. But either way it is, I've had so many clients tell me, I guess it's not worth going because my partner won't go. And I say, absolutely untrue. You going can change the dynamic of your partnership significantly. If you've been in the habit of nagging your husband about his drinking, and you go get some counseling and see your codependency issues and start going to Al-Anon and start focusing on yourself and stop making excuses for him missing work and stop, trying to prevent him from getting in trouble and trying to control his drinking, it can become very clear that he has a drinking problem, and he can say, you know what, I see that it's not just you that I'm drinking over. I am an alcoholic and I'm going to go to AA. So just one person changing the balance there can make a tremendous difference. Or the husband who comes and says, my wife is withholding sex, and, I don't know what to do about it. And, he becomes a more loving and compassionate person and tries to be understanding of her and what's going on with her and so forth. It can change the dynamics tremendously. So don't think that you can't individually make a lot of difference in the relationship. So that's number 7. Number 8 is give it time. This is not a light decision to make, and you get to allow yourself to take your time and slow down the process and not try to make a decision prematurely. It impacts too many people, including your own self-esteem. So This is the process that I recommend to people, is to ask yourself every day, do I want to leave today? Do I want to leave today? And if the answer is yes, I want to leave today, every day for 6 months, then there's your decision right there. It's pretty clear that you want to leave, even if you have done counseling and you've gotten support and you've gotten sober and all of those things. It's like you get to pay attention to what your heart is telling you, what you're intuitively guided every day for like 6 months. And if, on the other hand, one day you feel yes, the next day you feel no, the next day you feel yes, the next day you feel no, you're not ready to make that decision yet. You're just not ready. And you get to relax and continue on with what you're doing, or maybe get more support, or maybe more talking with your partner, or maybe observing more of your pro and con list, and make a new one. You know, try going back over the steps if you're still in conflict after 6 months. And then on the other hand, of course, you may just intuitively feel, do I want to leave? And the answer is no, much more than the answer is yes. Then you've made that decision. No, you don't want to leave. You do some days, but primarily you don't want to leave. And that is a directional signal also, that you get to start putting all of your energy into trying to co-create a situation that is more conducive to wanting to stay every single day. And then number 9 is, after you go over all these other steps, then you get to make a decision. And whether you make a decision to stay or whether you make a decision to leave, this is the important part of it, is do it consciously. Do it with awareness. Bring all of your generosity and your kindness and your compassion and your courage to whichever decision you make. If you make the decision to leave, then do it in a graceful way where you honor everybody's needs, where you are open and willing to engage in fair play, and that you get the support to try and make this as amicable and as fair to everybody as possible. And I've seen so much needless heartache in divorce situations, in which one person feels like they're the injured party and they want that other person to pay. They want them literally to pay. And they want them, really, the truth is, they want them to emotionally pay for the pain that they're feeling. But you know what, guys, it doesn't work. It just creates unbelievable, needless pain. I've seen people spend $50,000, $100,000 on attorneys so that they could try to get something from the other person, you know, that pound of flesh. And it's just not worth it in the end. You never win that way. You never get what you're after, because what you're after is really a sense of peace inside yourself. And you're only going to get that if you go into it with a sense of compassion and rightness about what you're doing, and the belief that even though this may be very devastating to me financially and unbelievably challenging to my self-esteem and everything, I get to hold on to the belief spiritually that the universe is guiding this, and that I'm not meant to be with this person for some reason, and that this is for my highest good because it's happening. I'm going to find a way to embrace that it's for my highest good. And if you can do that, you're going to sail through the separation process with a sense of self-respect. And the same thing goes if you decide to stay. You know, if you decide to stay and you feel you've gone through all these other steps and you've come to step 9 and you've made the decision to stay, then embrace that with your whole heart. Take it on as your mission in life, that you want to become more and more self-aware, more and more conscious of what you're doing, more and more healed of old traumas that might be getting in the way. Really take it on as an adventure, as a journey. And you know, you can do the same in a divorce or separation situation. You can take this on as a spiritual journey, that you're going to learn every single thing you can from this experience, and you're not going to judge it. Now, I know some of you think that I'm crazy for saying that, but it is so true. I've been there. I've done it that way myself, where we take it on with consciousness and caring, and we make it the most amicable, fair, and loving situation we can, whichever way it goes, yay or nay. And you can do it, guys. I know you can, but you can't do it alone. You've got to get support for that. And then number 10, this is the final step, is acknowledge yourself. If you have gone through the former 9 steps and you have really taken them on seriously, then you get to give yourself credit for facing something really tough and making a considered and conscious choice. And if you leave, don't bash yourself for having, a quote unquote failed marriage. It's not a failed marriage. You just weren't meant to be with that person forever. There's no failure about it if you really put your whole heart into being conscious and caring. It's not a failure. It's inevitable. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, and there's nothing you can do about it. And on the other hand, if you decide to stay, then you get to acknowledge, the courage and the insights that it's taken to get to that stage. But either way, again, if you've gone through meticulously the other 9 steps, you get to acknowledge yourself. You get to feel good about yourself. You get to see that your confidence is actually increased, whichever way it goes, because of the way you handled this. Not because of the outcome. And it's the same thing like when you were raising a child. You say, I don't care about the grade you get. I care about the effort you put into it. If you tried your hardest and a C is what you got, then good for you. That's awesome. And it's the same way here. It's like, it doesn't matter whether you decide to separate or stay together. If you have dedicated yourself to the consciousness building and the courage building and the compassion building steps that we are discussing here today, then you get to feel the confidence that you do not hurt people lightly, that you take life and love seriously and you cherish it. And that is an amazing quality that you've developed. And you get to take that forward, whether it's in rededicating yourself to your relationship or it's in the next relationship that you'll have. These qualities still have been nurtured and developed in you because you're using these 10 steps. And that's amazing, guys. And I want to applaud you for it. So I love you. That's all we have for today. And I will talk to you next week. And I hope you have an awesome, awesome week. Bye, guys.